Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on April 2nd, 2024 at approximately 4:30 p.m. PST. Now, I've returned to this world for one primary purpose, and that is to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I personally use in my day-to-day life. And the philosophies of life I talk about are the same philosophies I personally utilize to guide virtually every move I make. Now, I know these tools will work for you because they continue to work for me and have literally worked for thousands of other people with varying degrees of success depending on their own personal efforts. Now, before we get into anything, let's start with going up here. We have Storm in with the goal today. And Storm, thank you so much for taking care of things and getting this all up and running. Lord knows that's a job and a half, and one that's way beyond my technical capacity, obviously. In with the silver, we have Woo Rider. Woo, how you doing? Glad you could join us. I know your day's been hectic as all get out. Hopefully not too terribly bad. Hope you guys are back on your feet. LA Moon is in with the bronze. LA, how you doing? Glad to see you here. Lord knows your help has been absolutely invaluable in many ways. And then we have Desiree White. Desiree, nice to see you. Hopefully things are going well and that you're feeling better and more energetic than you have been in a little while. Honorable mention. Let's see. What we got? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, honorable mention goes to Desiree. And coming in right behind, we have Joe Stewart is in the house. How you doing, Joe? I know you've been hectic. Things still going busy as usual out in the backyard. Tell you, now, today we're going to be looking at communication and creativity. With this in mind, and again, if you've got questions, even if it's not in the same topic we're discussing, get your questions into the chat room, preferably in all caps, at least in minimum in partial caps. Bare minimum, get that wavy hand up there and shaking back and forth so I can spot the question. If I don't get to the question, repost it, because the odds are I'm going to miss one or two of them. Or more. Okay, Steve, how you doing? Glad you could join us. And Steve Knox is through the door. Now, this is not a bad start at all when you think about it. Today, we're looking at communication and creativity because of the fact that at this point, I don't have a lot of information from you guys about the projects you're working on. I pick a spot to start with. In this case, I'm going to be looking at the Elderbachian Chronicles. That's the novel series that I wrote. Okay, or more to the point that I'm writing. Now, oddly enough, this particular book, in a manner of speaking, anybody writes a book. You have now attained a modicum of immortality. Because you see my name across the bottom here, R. Keith Andrews, that'll last long after I'm gone. Now, the weird part about this is way back in grade 10, I was asked to write a storyline, for an English project. So I wrote the storyline. That same storyline is actually in the back of the Birth of the Wolf Pack, and the rest of the stories, for that matter, the rest of the volumes. When I wrote it, my English teacher came back to me and she goes, "Do you have anything at all? Do you have any idea at all what you wrote?" I looked at her and I went, "Well, yeah. I wrote a storyline. Granted, it's going to take several volumes to write it, but I wrote a storyline." And she goes, "No, well, yes, you wrote a storyline, but what you actually wrote was an epic poem." I said, "What, pray tell, is an epic poem?" She goes, "It's something that nobody has taught since the since the mid 1800s. Okay, which means I wrote something that, quite frankly, they stopped teaching 100 years before I was born. That seems to happen a lot. Okay, so I came up with this storyline. I sat on it for a very, very long time. Okay, jump way ahead. Now, the storyline literally runs from the creation of the universe all the way through to the fall of man. When I turned around and wrote The Birth of the Wolf Pack, okay, when I wrote that, the reason behind it was I had so much fun playing Dungeons and Dragons with both playing it on at the table and the characters, the people that ran the characters, that I decided to document it. Now, when I wrote The Birth of the Wolf Pack, I wrote that knowing there would be a sequel and probably a prequel. Okay, well, as it turned out, I showed the outline to my girlfriend at the time, and she looks at it and goes, "Keith, this is way more than a story. This is more like an autobiography." Bear in mind, Jeremiah Wolfstrand, the main character in the Birth of the Wolfpack, the main protagonist, was built by me. Okay, as a character in a game, in Aftermath to be specific. Now, the storyline I wrote did not cover after the fall of man. So, book 10, Birth of the Wolfpack, is the first book in 4 trilogies that run back to back. Okay, but as my girlfriend at the time pointed out, it fits beautifully on the back end of the original story. So now I have 4 trilogies, all written back to back, all independent trilogies. Each of the books is written to stand on its own. And yes, bad news, guys, for those of you that don't like cliffhangers, deal with it. That's the way it's been written. Okay. But each book does have a definitive, this is the end of what it was trying to do. Here's the next stage. Each of the trilogies stands on its own and covers a different age. Okay. So what I did, and when you're writing something, when you're singing something, when you're drawing something, the more of the different senses that you can draw into the equation, the clearer that picture is going to be for people. Okay, my idea is real simple. Joe just come back a little bit ago, actually, and said, no, it's been quiet at his end. Kind of low key in the last few nights. You know, when I wrote these, when you're writing, when you're striving to paint a picture for somebody, the more of the various senses you can bring in, the better off you are. The more it's going to connect with people. Now, here's a direct question for you guys. Okay, when you're reading a novel, how many chapters do you give the novel to get your attention to encourage you to keep reading? This is literally a question to make sure that I'm on the right track of what I'm up to. And no, that, by the way, this doesn't mean have you read the Birth of the Wolfpack. This means any novel, any book that you're reading. Okay. And the reason I'm asking is, like I said, to make sure that things are staying on the right track. Now, when I built it, okay, the first time that I wrote when I first wrote the Birth of the Wolfpack, I handed the transcript over to a friend of mine, and he told me, he says, I'm going to read a few chapters and carry on with my day. Oh, there we go. And Storm has come back two chapters to give me an intriguing hook. Well, and that was kind of what I was thinking, which is why, and I appreciate that, Storm, which is why when I wrote The Birth of the Wolfpack, bear in mind, it's post-apocalyptic. Now, some people will call this science fiction, some will kind of call it science fantasy. The reality of it is, I'm not fussy which one you want to call it. Okay, but chapter 1, there is a description. There's the layout of the bar that it starts in. It's post-apocalyptic. It was a great way to start. If you're a gamer, you understand the use of that. Okay, so I started it there. In the first chapter, there is a layout of a fight. It's kind of in the background, kind of going, yes, there's a fight going on, and then it lets it go. In chapter 2, there is a very detailed, very choreographed combat between that is 10-1 odds. Now, the guy involved, Jeremiah Wollstrand, is the primary protagonist. Okay. And he is the one that this goes up 10-1 odds against. Now, Jeremiah is real simple. He will talk his way out of whatever he can get away with. But if you push him too far, all of a sudden you've got a problem. The fight goes on. Jeremiah ends up with seven assailants dead, 2 badly wounded, and 1 guy gets away in one piece. This is against the pacifist of the party. Okay, now I've done my best to paint the picture properly, paint the emotional side of it properly. Sorry, don't have a lot of music in it. It's paperback. Okay, if you think about it, you want paperback to make music. You grab it and you just fan the pages and see how much you can get it to do. Now I can't get it to change tones that well, but when I handed the manuscript to the friend, he says, I'm going to read a couple of chapters and then I'll get on with my day. Well, he phones me at noon. Okay. Like he takes it home that night, phones me at noon the next day and goes, I finished the book. I'm like, okay, you just read 250. I'm thinking you just read 250 pages in 4 hours. You know, for me to read 250 pages, it's going to take me 3 weeks. Okay. But he says, but I think I didn't get the whole book. I says, let me ask you, was the book 250 pages long? He goes, yeah, absolutely. I said, was the last word on the last page run? He goes, well, yeah. I said, that's the end of the book. He goes, but what happened to the characters? I want to know what happened to the characters. I said, that's where book 2 comes in. And to be clear, I took book 1, I took the tail end of the last chapter, used that directly as the prologue for book 2. So it just picks straight up right afterwards. Okay, but again, it's standalone. No, I'm not going to tell you what the outcome of the book is, other than we can safely say if the last word on the last page is run, things weren't going well. Okay, but this is one where I'm not going to tell you, but I will tell you, you want the details, you're going to have to get a hold of the book. It's just that simple, which is something we are working on, trying to figure out how to get the copies a little less costly to actually ship. But I was very happy to know that because book 10, Birth of the Wolf Pack, is already in print. Okay. Now, the only place you can get it at this point is, quite frankly, through me. If you look at the top of the stream, you'll find the Buy Me a Coffee link. In that link, you'll find any book that I'm working on. Okay, tied into it. Now, there's the Birth of the Wolf Pack, and that's Jeremiah Wollstrand in the front. Okay. Now, with him, he's the guy, this is your primary protagonist. Okay. And then you have, and I do not recall right off the top of my head, so let's see if I can get them. But this scene is literally written in when I turned it over to my artist in England. When I turned it over to him, he came up with that picture. I didn't actually give him the information on the wolves at the front. He came up with the idea dropped it in my lap, and he goes, "Is this okay?" I looked at it and went, that's actually a really good idea. So I turned around and added that scene to the front to the book. Okay. So, and again, it boils down to this. It's all interconnected. All of it. Okay. Even to the point that I've talked to you guys about what do we got here? Joe. Joe's gone. It's been raining out nonstop the past 3 nights. But I believe the last night the cemetery went crazy was when those ghost hunters, not normal visitors, were looking for something. I should have got proof, but I didn't. The funny part there, Joe, don't worry about the proof. Because so many people I've talked to, you'll go, I've got proof. I've got the pictures. Oh, they were photoshopped. Or it was staged. You know what you saw. That is the critically important part. Okay, and I will tell you, what you saw is your proof. Okay, I have no proof for the number of times I've walked off of death's door. The fact I walked out of the morgue, I don't have proof of it, and the odds of my getting proof are slim to non-existent. So what you've got, the best thing you can do, in my opinion, Joe, is document what you saw in as much detail as you can. Leave that in your journal, okay? Because that's what becomes a stable setup. That becomes your proof down the road. Okay, like I've got, for instance, now I understand the idea of proof. I really do. I just gotta check something here. Good. I've got a picture of something that I never would have believed possible. I knew statistically it had to be possible. I've actually got concrete proof. And people will say, oh, but that's been photoshopped. No, it hasn't. I've got 3 witnesses, not signed, but 3 witnesses that saw the dice land the way that they did. Okay, on a flat table. But that picture will be included in May. Okay, and again, you guys asked for color pictures. This is what I'm now providing. Okay, we said we'd do it in the positive perspectives in the magazine. We now have color pictures. They're not great. Okay, you're not going to see a great big, main page picture of me. You don't need to. Okay, I want to look in the mirror. And who do we got? We got Alien Believers. How you doing? Glad you could join us. The neat part about it is when I'm looking at the Elder Balking Chronicles, I've taken a lot of the information and that I've gone through personally. Okay, and the things that I've been teaching, things that I've been following through with. For instance, the karmic laws. Oh, there you go. That's fabulous, Joe. There's the proof you require. Signed, dated, filled out. There you have it. That's all the proof you require. Okay. Well, it's all the proof you require. It's not necessarily proof you desire. But in the Birth of the Wolf Pack, I do right off the hop include the three karmic laws. Okay. If I could figure out where to get a pelt like the one I've got, I would have it made. But it's going to cost me a small fortune. Me, how you doing? Glad you could join us. So I've got that in. There are other little issues that I've dealt with, like, for instance, with Jeremiah, with the Wolf Pack. They've got a very simple outlook. We all go home or nobody does. Now, understand, This is a ragtag bunch of misfits. They don't follow the kind of cardinal rules and guidelines that most of society does. But they step in to deal with the problem children to help make this world a better world. Okay, for virtually everybody. Problem children, now bear in mind, this is one of a few places that I absolutely agree violence is acceptable. In stories, in novels, in movies, in your creative mind. Okay. Or in matters of life and death, where you're fighting to save your own life, or you have to hunt. If you've got to hunt, if you're a hunter, absolutely. Hunting is perfectly acceptable in my eyes. I can't do it, but it is perfectly acceptable. Okay, with that in mind, okay, the only other place it's acceptable, in my opinion, in a way, LA, they don't follow the standard rule. LA is just going, so they're sort of a paladin. In a manner of speaking, as in they've got a very strict set of rules they each follow with their own take on it. Okay. Now, Jeremiah is very much a pacifist. If he can talk his way out of it, well, frankly, he will. If he can't, you're in trouble. Okay, but he does have a very direct way of getting his point across to other people. Now, that's Jeremiah. And if you take a look, and I don't have it handy to put in the screen. What did I just do with it? There it is. If you look on the back of the book, The Birth of the Wolf Pack, okay, we have this gentleman here who is Jeremiah. Okay, he's the pacifist. Now, then we have this guy here who is another member of the party. Now, this is not in the order they get introduced necessarily, but we have Wilhelm Schunter, which is the guy in white here. Okay. He is a professional assassin that did not like the way he was being treated. He walked away from his life before the world collapsed. Okay. And his claim to fame is very simple. One bullet to one, maybe two kills at a time. Period. He is extremely thorough, very disconnected where it comes to somebody's got to die, they're going to die now. But he works closely with Jeremiah in getting things done. Then you've got the girl in the party, and that would be this young lass here. This is Tanya. Okay, now Tanya Jan Scott, the best way I can put it is she's a volatile hillbilly. Okay, and she is none too subtle about her way of dealing with problem children. Okay, as a matter of fact, in chapter 4, I think, and I'm not going to get because I really don't necessarily recall exactly which chapter was which, but I believe in either chapter 3 or chapter 4, Tanya and Jeremiah meet. They don't meet under the best circumstances, but they do become good friends. Okay. But like I said, she is at best a volatile hillbilly. Now, each of these characters, bear in mind, are based on a conglomeration of the gaming characters they actually built and the people themselves. And yeah, where you're talking about paladins, paladins there in LA are people that have a definitive code of law that they follow. Usually they follow society's laws. The Wolfpack follows a lot of laws, but none of them are based strictly on current society. But they are very clear cut. Now, this book, okay, if you don't like cliffhangers, well, you're going to run into a snag. But it does close the book itself off very succinctly. Okay, then we go to book 2. Now, book 2 is the end of an epic. And in order to link it together, I simply took the tail end of the last chapter, either all the last chapter or the tail end of it, and put it as a prologue in the end of an epic. Now you'll notice in the end of an epoch, I know the lighting isn't great, but you'll notice you have a tall reptilian here. This is a Srazazian. Now, when we've talked about the Srazazians in on the radio before, on the stream before, like I mentioned, they are reptilian. They are literally 7.5 to 8.5 feet tall, which is why if you look at this guy, okay, here's his head up here, and Jeremiah, his head is way down here. That gives you literally the size. Okay. Then we've got a dwarf, and of course, this is a very dark book. But on the other hand, the end of an epoch isn't exactly all butterflies and and ponytails. Although there is one scene in the end of an epoch where a young lass is grabbed by the ponytail and thrown to safety. Now you gotta understand, she's thrown to safety by a dwarf. As you can well imagine, he wasn't all that subtle about it either. And Ellie's going, so they have a code, just not necessarily one taken from society. Absolutely. Simply put, they all do their best to resolve things quietly, first of all. Okay. Now, of course, in the end of an epoch, we have two other people here. We've got the big black guy. And the fact that he's black is quite simply a case of the guy built him that way. But we got to realize the chap that built Blade is Caucasian. Okay. He just built a black man for the game. Okay. Now, Blade, this will sum it all up. It's not a question whether there's going to be a fight when Blade gets into the room. There is simply a question of when it's going to start. One of his normal things to tell people, they'll threaten him, and he's like, today is a good day for you to die. Or it's a good day for people to die. It's not a good day for Blade to die. Blade's got no interest in it. Okay. But there's one scene somewhere in the books, and I think it's actually in book 12. Okay. Where Blade comes into the room and there's a conversation going on between Jeremiah and another problem child. And the problem child says, oh, you don't have to worry about that Blade anymore. He'll never show. He's never going to bother anybody ever again. Door to the bar opens. Here's Blade standing there with a body over his shoulder. A live body, mind you, just messed up. And Jeremiah looks at Blade and goes, Blade, you're alive. I was told you were dead. Blade looks at him and goes, funny. I was told the same thing. This is just Blade. He's just one of these people. Don't pick a fight. The guy's 6'6" and built like a freight train with the temperament of a Wolverine. Then we have this little chap here. Now, this guy he was born with a silver spoon. This is Dirk Waterstone. Born with a silver spoon. He and Blade, early on in their life, became very good friends. Okay. And stayed friends throughout it. Dirk did go to the military. Dirk did end up becoming special forces. Okay, but Dirk is a tech wizard. Okay, now understand, post-apocalyptic, tech is a little bit screwy. Okay, so we've got those two. Now that's 5 out of 7. Book 3 and book 12, The Return to Paradise, contains the last 2 pictures, which I don't have here. Okay, and that will be of Mickey. The problem with Mickey is, yes, he's ex-military, but you gotta understand, it's a real question whether Mickey actually understands there's a war, because he's always giggling and joking about something. Okay. Now, who am I missing? Of course, I'm going to forget somebody. Wilhelm, Blade, Dirk, Mickey. Who the heck am I missing? Oh, no, that's Wilhelm. Jeremiah, Wilhelm, Tanya, Blade, Dirk, and Mickey. Okay. Gotta be right. Gotta be right. But that's only 5, you know. See, I'm pulling blank, and I don't like that much, but it kind of worked out that way. Where is my pen? Just because I want to get things straight. I'm missing somebody, and that annoys me. Told you I'm not entirely organized all the time. Oh, of course. Mickey's on the back cover. So's Ozzy. Now, Ozzy wasn't military. Ozzy, on the other hand, is your grandfather. Okay, he literally in the game was drawn in as a 66-year-old. Okay, Ozzy's the one that looks out for kids a lot. Okay, he's the one that everybody looks at as a grandfather figure. Something about him being 20 years older than everybody else. You know, so we've got that going on. Now, like I mentioned, include as much as you can. As I said at the beginning of the book, when I first started laying it out, this is a story written for gamers by a gamer. Now, there's a lot of authors out there that are still gamers. Okay, I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons since the first Saturday in June of 1976, averaging 2 to 3 games a week. Okay, here I am now. In 76, I was 13. Okay, here I am, just about to turn 61. Okay, so we are looking at 49 years gaming. Christine, how are we doing? Glad you could join us. Now, I have included in the stories, and this is something that I'm looking at. One of the things that triggered it in my head is I have included some of the songs that I've written for the Ilderbachtian Chronicles, some of the poems, and I am building a poetic anthology, to which comes the other issue. Okay, am I accepting submissions from people for the anthology or for the newsletter, you know, for the magazine? Absolutely, but here's the kicker. Anything for the magazine, okay, I don't pay for articles from the magazine because I'm not charging for anything for the magazine. The anthology, on the other hand, okay, I've already looked into the costs of it, and the anthology is simply a question of requiring a copy of your work, whether it's a poem or a short story. I'll be building both. Okay, I haven't come up with a price for the short story yet, but the poem, I need a copy of the poem, a letter from you stating it is your poem, your original work, and that I've got permission to reproduce it in part or in whole. Okay, plus $20 Canadian. That will give you in your hand a copy of the anthology. Net result, your own work will be in print, credited to you. Okay, now the poems in the book and the songs that I've got in the Ilderbachtian Chronicles, I'm in the process of trying to figure out how to get music to them. We've got an idea. Won't be music in the book, and no, I'm not going to be singing them. Okay, somebody else gets that fun. But this is one of those little issues of going, okay, this is a massive creative project. All of it is interlocked. Of course, throughout the 12 books in the series, there are flashbacks and foreshadowings all throughout it. Okay, tying them together. Now, to give you an idea of how that all works, way back in book 1, you'll find that out in where it all began. There's a gentleman in there by the name of Kieslak who goes through the first series. Things happen, he disappears off the mark. Okay, but spoiler alert, he's not dead. He shows up back in book 12. Okay, He's always working behind the scenes, though, and this is something that will become painfully apparent as the other books come out. But again, I'm looking at it going, how do we take this great big image? I've got this massive picture. Okay, and we're going to link it into the other thing in just half a second. But I've got this major picture in my head of the Ildebachian Chronicles. Okay, that covers from the creation of the universe all the way through, all the way through to the fall of mankind. Okay, and it will be interlinked. Now, what I haven't entirely decided on is how to go about, or whether or not I should go about, putting excerpts of that. I did get your guys' suggestion, and I forget who it was yesterday that mentioned the idea of getting an actual website up dedicated to the Ildebachian Chronicles, which is really kind of ironic when I think about it. I've got a web page. I've got a page on Facebook that literally is for Ilderbach. I should actually do something with it. What do you think? I've already got a page there. I just haven't done anything with the thing. Of course, I got really scattered trying getting too many things done at the same time. And net result, we have this neat little problem. I didn't close that. I did not. Now, what I am looking at is the reason, by the way, that door is open back there now is because of the fact that it seems to help a little bit with the broadcast. I don't know why, don't care why, but we don't seem to be having, from my standpoint, any major problems at this point. Okay, now I would love to turn my attention to other people's projects, but thus far, I haven't got any that people have come forth with, which is why I'm starting with what I'm working on, because frankly, it gives me a reference point, and gives you one for that matter. Now, the neat part about all of this, okay, couple of other people that I brought in. Now, if I go back, if you take a look at any of the characters in the Ildebachian Chronicles, 99% of them, I suspect, maybe 99.5%. Well, in all the characters that I've gotten designed, every one of them, I can tell you who they were based on. Joe, that ship in Fire in the Sky. Now, I know now, best I can tell you there, I don't remember the last time I saw Fire in the Sky. However, I spent 2 weeks with Travis Walton, at a retreat. And I can tell you what that ship was. That was a ship belonging to the Zeta Reticuli. Okay. That was a Zeta Reticulan ship. It did, and you get to figure out the veracity of what went on. When I laid it out, and in all fairness, this is Travis's experience. I'm not going to be relaying what I saw, but I laid out what I knew about it. And like I told him when I met him, I says, I've been watching this since the day it happened to you. So we're sitting there talking, and I was laying out what he went through, because he asked me what I knew, and I laid it all out. And he looks at me and he goes, Keith, he said, there is only one way you could know that information. I said, yeah. He said, you had to be on that ship. I said, well, I said, well, if you think about it, I did tell you I've been watching it since the day it happened. He goes, yeah, but I thought you'd been watching the news. I said, I'm not the one that said that. So do I know what happened? Yeah, I'm just not telling anybody. Now, the day, the fact of the matter is, I will corroborate when I'm talking with Travis, I will absolutely talk to people honestly, but I'm not about to reveal anything that I know of. Okay. And fortunately, that works out well for me. But those were Zeta Reticulum that took him. So I mean, ultimately, that's what you're looking at. But I can tell you wholeheartedly, did the abduction happen? Absolutely. Can I prove it? Not a prayer. Okay. And this is why a lot of what I write about, okay, in the Elderbachian Chronicles, in the Races of the World, this is information based on personal experience. The same as the information I've got that is shown, the information that I've got in the believing your series. That is all personal experience. Okay. I don't write from the standpoint of, oh, let's make it sound really good. Okay. I do my best, especially with the novels, to make it add up, to make it enjoyable. Okay. But I will tell you, when I first wrote the manuscript for The Birth of the Wolf Pack, almost every chapter had a massive fight going on in it. Then I had to fill it out. It was at 150 pages or 250 pages when I turned it over to the one chapter in the first place. And then by the time I got finished, it was 392. Might give you an idea how much got filled in. As in another 142 pages, unless my math is off. Not to mention the before and after the story issues. So I've included the experiences that you see. Most of those events are ones that, now, granted, in books 10, 11, and 12, what you see there is not stuff that is drawn on from memory. Okay? Because of the fact, let's face it, Birth of the Wolf Pack takes place after society collapses, not before. Everything from book 8, from book 8 back, most of the experiences, most of the insights that come in there are based on what I've personally gone through. Okay. And the reason for that is when you go to write what you know. When we're looking at redesigning your house, okay. And again, this all comes back and it boils down to if you can make it a picture of it here, put it on paper so you've got something to work with. You can draw it into reality one step at a time. Okay. Now, I have got to go shut that door. Just give me 10 seconds. I will be right back. Okay. Now I guess we'll find out if that really has a bad effect. But we've got company showing up soon up front, so I had to close the front door. Close the outside door there. But well, yeah, pretty much. I mean, and I appreciate that, Joe. The reality is, I can tell you all sorts of things that go sideways as far as I go. I am looking forward to meeting a bunch of people in Reno. Bunch of you guys if you're there. Okay, and like I said, in Reno in a month, okay, The 8th, sorry, that day is completely occupied with my other half. It will literally be not only her birthday, but the first day we've met face to face in 3 years. So, no, the 8th, I'm occupied. 9th through the 12th, I will take whatever time I can to talk to whoever is available or whoever is desirous of doing so. The 13th, I will still be there, but that is my birthday, and that one is locked up with my other half. And then, of course, the 14th, I'm heading home. But you'll find that I am very much the same way. Yeah, exactly, LA. LA goes 1 month and counting. Like, today is the 2nd. I've got to be there. I'll be there on the 8th of next month. Now, here's the kicker. Last night, bearing in mind, I've already got the trip paid for. Okay. Bear in mind, that's already paid for. I had a nightmare last night of getting to Reno, getting lost, and having no idea how to get anywhere because I was out of money. Like I said, this is already paid. Yeah, it's, the neat thing there, Christine, is I kid you, not a word of a lie. In the 3 years we've been together, it's been all over. It's been on the internet, okay, via FaceTime or Skype. We spent a lot of time on video, which is really neat when you think about the fact that she's 100% blind. Okay, but in 3 years, not one argument. Okay, this is an almost unheard of record. I know of one family that I know of that never had so much as an argument that I recall. And that was my own parents. 60 years under one roof and not a fight. Oh, yeah. I mean, we've been on, I kid you not, it sounds strange to some people, but we'll put, because we both have Apple phones, we have unlimited time. Okay. So we literally will turn the phone on and leave it open, leave the line open overnight. Right. Yeah. Sometimes tech complains and it drops the call. But yeah, with my parents, okay, I do not ever recall them having a fight, even having an argument, which is amazing when you think in my family, 5 blood brothers, 1 adopted sister, two foster sisters, and my parents were block parents. Okay, not one fight. It's just almost unheard of. Okay, now I intend on keeping it the same way with my other half. But the odds of my making 60 years with her, I'm aiming for it. I'm 60 now. That only makes me 121. What the heck? I'm thinking, no, that was wrong. Make me 141. So we'll see what we can do. The oldest person I ever heard of was a black man. About 25 years ago, I caught wind of him. He came over on the slave ships. He was 149 years old when he died. Okay, I'd like to break that record in a functionally healthy body. And this is a funny thing, okay? In 2007, I couldn't see my glasses held right there. Okay, they put me, the doctors put me on medication for blood pressure, sugar, and my heart. Okay, medication drew my eyesight back to the point that I had to be 6 inches from the large monitor to be able to see it. Okay, today I'm sitting about 15 feet away from an analog clock without my glasses on, and I could accurately read the clock. I quit the medication. Okay, it's causing me to go blind. It's increasing my sugar levels. And bonus, I get to suffer from dementia if I'd like to stay on it. Yeah, I think I'll pass. So when you take a look at the Elderbaching Chronicles, I've written them in such a way, and that's why I'm working so hard to close down the final one, the end of the Return to Paradise. The intention is real simple. Now, if I recall correctly, if I recall correctly there, LA, you've got a copy of the End of an Epoch. If you do not, and I know we've talked about it before, I know you've told me, and I'll probably ask 2 or 3 times. If you don't have it, it's absolute, and I know you don't have Believe in Your Finances. I am going to be bringing them down, as well as where to go. Get those out of my way because I can't get them. These ones are in my way. As well as this little book, which happens to be yours. Okay. Yeah, I realize it's in my hand, but I bought it, so you're getting it. Plus, of course, we've got 2 boxes of these. Okay, these are the dice boxes. And if you notice on the bottom of them, it'll tell you it'll be a set number such and such of 12. Or of 10 rather. Okay. And so they will be coming down. Needless to say, I'm coming down with a lot of stuff I'm not taking home. Okay. But with the Ilderbachtian Chronicles, the intention was simple. Write a story that holds true unto itself, is internally consistent. Now, in its case, it's quite detailed already. But in Positive Perspectives in the magazine, okay, I am absolutely looking for ways to make it more enjoyable, more universally entertaining, and informative at the same time. Okay, yes, it takes a lot of work. And since I'm the only one doing the writing right now, there's a limit to what I can pull off, especially with everything else. In the Ilderbachtian Chronicles, we do go into literally soulmates, twin flames, soul family, that gets discussed, okay, as well as past lives. Now, the neat thing with The Birth of the Wolf Pack is right off the bat in the beginning of the book, you'll find out he goes by another name. Okay, when you first meet him, he is addressed by, somebody addresses him as Billion. Okay, he is addressed as Billion. This is because back in book 1 through 3, the first trilogy, Billion Belenderos is the primary protagonist. He changes his name as he goes through the series and eventually becomes Jeremiah Wolfstrand. Okay, now the neat part there is after the end of the Return to Paradise, you have one of two directions you'll be able to go. As I said, I leave cliffhangers all over the place when I'm dealing with writing. As Return to Paradise comes to a close, you're directed absolutely back to book 1, to where it all began. But you have a secondary choice because I'm writing another series tied to the back end of Return to Paradise, okay, that picks up where the Return to Paradise left off. I don't know, my mind just doesn't seem to shut down. Or maybe it did a long time ago. Okay. But the good news, and of course, when you look at the Positive Perspectives, I took your guys' idea. Okay. I don't think I've got it there. Where is it? Whoops. I require a positive for entertainment. Paranormal story. So what did I do with that? The different book and different writings. That's the articles. That's got to the older book itself. Yeah. That's the Elderbachian Chronicles, which means okay, I'm not going to continue going through that because it's taken too long. Okay, but in the April edition of Positive Perspectives, you'll find a write-up on a critter called the Moonicore. Okay, where I've literally taken it's under the creative side of things. Okay, this is one of the creatures in the Elderbachian Chronicles, complete with color pictures. And yes, they are hand painted by me. Not a good paint job. I'm not that much of an artist. Okay, but again, the more we connect all the dots, the more creative things get. And it is all connected. Okay. And again, if you've got ideas, if you've got questions, absolutely drop me a line. Now, I notice that we are down to the last few minutes here. I do believe we are. Okay. Now, what do we got? Got to do this. Now, we are down to the last couple of minutes. So I will tell you this. Tomorrow and Thursday, I will be off. We will not be live streaming. On Friday, we are coming back in with a focus for the week on family. Okay. Now, that being said, until then, thank you so much for sharing your time. For sharing your time with us. I really appreciate it. I will talk to you again on Friday. Okay. And by the way, Friday, we also have the ET Connection on Spaced Out Radio. Until then, do take care of yourselves.
Hey,
Do
Keith.
take care of yourself. Yo.
Keith, you actually have another hour. We're only 57 minutes into the broadcast.
See, I'm glad you're interrupting me. How about if we don't cut it off? What do you think?
I can manage that. I think everybody else would like that too.
Yeah, probably.
All right.
Remember that thing about me being temporally challenged?
Exactly. That's why I'm sitting here and reminding you. There you go.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
All right.
Okay. Well, this just goes to show just how well time works for me. Not well. But that's why I've got Storm in the background making sure things keep going. Oh, yeah, and I appreciate that, Christine. From my standpoint, I close it early if I have to. I've been thinking about that a lot. And part of my thought process over the last couple of days has been very simple. I looked at it and I've been paying too much attention to numbers, to subscription levels. The reality and the number of people in chat room. The reality is I had to remind myself two major factors. One, people have a lot of potential. Okay. I've had a lot of things to say about humans that were not exactly polite. And the way I've come to understand them, and do your best not to take offense to this. But like I said a couple of days ago, people are very much like lemmings. Okay. They really are. They're cute to watch, not necessarily the bravest batch of people around. Mind you, I can say the same for a lot of the other races I've run into. Okay. But it came to my attention that I'm looking at it going, oh, we've got way less people listening in. Now that I'm worried that we're focusing on how do you get your life in order? How do you reclaim power over your own life instead of how do you distract yourself from what's going on? Okay. Like, how do you distract yourself from what's going on doesn't necessarily work well. But so many people are so fed up with the way the world is. Okay. What I did with the Elderbachian Chronicles was took this group of misfits that are working together against all to bring a sense of civilization back to the world. Okay, in spite of the fact that it is absolutely it's a horrendous mess. Okay, but bear in mind, when I brought the world of the Elderbachian Chronicles, when I brought the world to an end, I did not make it a political thing. I didn't go, oh, it's the Russians against the Americans, it's the Chinese against the Mexicans. What I did was, hey, number one, we have natural disasters kicking the tail feathers out of everybody. Okay, couple that with an alien war taking place off planet, not against Earth. Okay. Yeah, if it had been and I appreciate that, Joe. If it had been because of things, I've had to shut it down because, well, heart went sideways and I'm not working anymore. It's just not going to happen. But I combine natural disasters with an alien conflict going on off planet that was spilling onto Earth, as well as the ancient races getting back involved. Okay, so it was a global thing. Nobody was protected from it at all. Okay, there is an extra 2 books being written inside the Chronicles. One, and both of these will have to come out after I'm done with writing the Chronicles. Okay, one is Jeremiah's time on a space station. And yes, that is exactly what I said, on a space station. Obviously, takes place before the Great Collapse. Great Collapse, by the way, is the title for the 9th book in the series, the one that takes place right before the birth of the wolf pack. And no, that has not been written yet. Okay. But there's that one, and there's another book that's being written that has to wait until I'm done with all of the books, called Jeremiah's Journal, which will simply take all of his writings, which are scattered throughout the books, okay, and added to them, and they are what is in his actual journal. Okay, now I haven't decided on much on how to do that. Of course, we've also got the compendium being written. Remember I mentioned I write a lot of things all at the same time? Okay, even in amongst these different stories, the different guidelines that are being utilized that you've been told about in the Believe in Your series, those little tidbits are also being added up. Are also being added in. The neat part there, Joe, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, with LA and Storm taking care of the key moderator positions, I don't even have to worry about the other moderators. Okay, because the rules that are listed apply to everyone. Okay, now, technically they don't apply to me, but I have a tendency of making rules that fall under the category of karmic law. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. The fact I have said, I do not promote anybody's political views. Okay, I don't do it, nobody does it. It's just that simple. Okay, now, of course, when we start looking at the Elderbachian Chronicles, you got to realize that entire picture is set up in an interesting fashion. I think it's interesting anyway. It is the latter years is a very violent series. Okay, now, like I said, I will print other people's works. Okay, I will not print anything adult specific, as in, let's discuss what went on in between the sheets with 2 adults. Okay, I don't publish it, I don't write it. It's not that it's not written well. Somebody may have written an absolutely bang-on story that way, and they're more than welcome to it. It may well be one of the best writings in the world. I won't publish it. Okay. The closest I come, there is one scene in The Birth of the Wolf Pack where the wolf pack has rescued a group of people. If I recall the numbers correctly, I think there were 16. The 16 rescued. And Jeremiah gets up in the morning and he's doing a quick head count. He's like, okay, 4, 9, 4, 4, 7, 9, 11, 4, 7, 9, 10. Where's the missing 2? And then it says, and you see this one bush swaying rhythmically back and forth. And Jeremiah just simply goes, oh, there they are, and carries on with the rest of the day. That's as close as you get. Okay, so with that in mind, what you're looking at is a massive, there's a lot of going on there. There's a lot of information that you get to fill in some of it. Now, I've already talked to two people about turning the Elderbachian Chronicles into a movie. Once Return to Paradise is finished, I can do it. Okay. Prior to that, I won't even touch it. And yes, I am looking at ink press shirts and coffee cups. Now, it's very important, something we have to realize. Jeremiah's prime drink of choice is pre-roux and rye neat. Okay. I don't think I have it back here. I do not. It's up front. Which means, give me half a second, I will be right back. Now, I am back. What's that? Like I said, I have a tendency, I've invested a lot of focus on the Elderbachian Chronicles. In the books, it talks about Jeremiah's cup. Okay, well, Jeremiah's bowl, in all fairness. And this is literally what we're talking about. As you can see, it's a one-piece wood. This has already been treated. Okay, it's already been treated for food safe. And so it's absolutely usable. Okay. And then we have this one, which was treated the same way. This is his actual cup, which gives you an idea. Okay, this gives you an idea how much time I put into it. Now, I've got the staff sort of built, but unfortunately, the guy that was building it had to close shop and it's not complete. One of the things that I find, like I said, with the creative side of communication, involve as many senses as you can get away with. Okay. And yes, by the way, if you look at that, when you take a look at this, okay, when you look at Jeremiah, okay, he's wearing a long coat, and he's wearing a wide brimmed hat. I own both. I don't own the gun. It's not that I have anything against guns, I just don't own one. And, the military did say they wouldn't put me in. Something about automatic weapons and epileptics. Okay. But, that's just one of those things you work with. So, what I'm doing now, and this is where it kind of becomes an issue of trying to figure out how to really start getting things moved around. Now, the reality of it is that if I end up because I'm going down to Reno, Okay. Now, I will tell you, here's a little bonus for you. Okay, these novels are literally, they're $40. Okay. They're $40 to buy them. But if I'm shipping them, because I can't afford the cost of the shipping to anywhere in Canada or the continental US is $25. That said, if you're planning on being in Reno and you desire a copy of the books, if I get the $40 for it to start with, I'll be bringing down enough copies that have been paid for. I'll bring them with me, and you don't have to worry. Nobody has to worry about the cost of shipping. Okay, I'm quite willing to deal because I'll just bring them with me in my luggage. I travel very light. Just a thought, if you're interested, that is a way of getting around the idea of having to pay the extra for shipping. Something you got to remember with these. Remember I said it was all interconnected? If you take a look at the back covers, they link together to make another picture. Okay. Oh, no, not there. In this hand is where the other book will go. Okay. And create a full picture. Now, that whole picture has already been designed. Okay. And the same thing applies to the binding. There's a complete picture that fits across those books as well. Okay. And they're all linked together. Now, the only series that I haven't dealt with, because what you'll find, okay, and you get to figure out how it fits together. When you take a look at the races of the world, these are all races that I've personally dealt with. In Races of the World, in this particular one here, okay, the races in here, I wish I could give you an answer to that, Joe. I don't think I actually look and watch that show. You know, and Joe was just asking, in the 1982 movie with Kurt Russell, the thing, what kind of cryptid? Oh, wait a minute. Kurt Russell called The Thing. What kind of cryptid is that? I don't think I watched The Thing. So I'm not honestly certain. I wonder if it's got a picture here. Might be able to give you a minor idea. 1982. Let's see. Pop that over there and go 82. I'm just hoping there's a picture of it. Oh, there we go. Let's take a look at it. Okay. That's the thing. I'm not 100% certain, but at first look, I'd almost be inclined to say that's a Naga. Okay. I'm not 100% certain though. Like I said, I don't think I ever actually watched the movie. You know, 10 years ago, I couldn't. Oh, okay. I really cannot, I'd be inclined to say you might be looking at a Naga, but I'm not entirely certain. Because, like I said, sadly, that one I didn't actually watch. Although it is an interesting question. Okay, now, if we take a look at LA, if we take a look at that name, the Blob, that's the easy part. Okay, although with the Blob, they made it way bigger than what they really are. But if you were to combine a bunch, you'd get that. The Blob was a Korlock. Okay, it's not a cryptid. it's another race altogether. As a matter of fact, the Korlock are the creators of the ship that you see in 2001: A Space Odyssey. They are the people that built that ship. And that ship, no human will ever be on alive. But yeah, the blob itself, that's a Korlock. Oh, okay. I will have to take a look at it. I don't even know if I've got Tubi, to be honest with you, which might make it a little bit of an interesting problem. But when you look at races of the world, you're looking at a lot of information in encyclopedic form. But when I take those creatures, those entities, bring them into the Ildrakian Chronicles, you get to start seeing their personalities. Yeah, I appreciate that, Ellie. I kind of got that one sorted out. Unfortunately, the thing itself, I looked at the picture they have on it, but I didn't actually see the movie. So I don't really have a solid answer for anybody. Not on that one. I mean, I could lie about it, but at first look, I'd almost be inclined to say that it's a Naga. But I don't know for sure. When you start looking at the different races, at the different species that come in, okay, you get to see what their personalities are like. And not any species has one demeanor. There's not a one of them that is just everybody is this way. Okay. The massive majority of people on Earth, I'm firmly convinced, are decent people. Okay. Unfortunately, they are not the ones that make noise. The ones that are the problem are the other 5 to 10%. Okay, that are creating problems, and the people that are decent are trying not to rock the boat, and therefore seem to be biting the tongue. I'm not good at biting my tongue. I've tried it before. Often when I sneeze, I bite my tongue. I don't like that feeling. So when I look at what's going on, okay, the more senses you involve. Of course, when I first wrote The Birth of the Wolf Pack, each of the primary protagonists, each member of the Birth of the Wolf Pack, was based on a combination. It was an amalgamation of the characters themselves and the people that built them. Okay, so I took those combinations and melded them into each individual character, because, like I said, when I wrote it, I'd had so much fun gaming with them, both at the gaming table and just socializing, that I decided to corroborate and to document the whole 9 yards in the form of a story. Okay, now I will tell you this: there is a waitress in Casey's Bar and Grill, okay, by the name of Kathy. Now that waitress happens to be based on a young lass that I knew I met her in grade 5. Okay. Grade 5? Wait a minute. Grade 4. Trying to remember when I met her. Grade 4 was... No, I'd met her in grade 4. Okay. And, I was lucky. There's this terrible reputation out there that redheads are really volatile tempers. Okay. I'll tell you, the one that I knew, okay, the first redhead I ever met had a personality of solid gold. Blood red hair, but absolutely brilliant personality. She is who I based. Now, bear in mind, clearly, if I was in grade 4, she wasn't working as a waitress. But I took her personality and how well she interacted with people and utilized that as a template to build this character in Casey's Bar and Grill. Virtually every character that is in the Birth of the Wolfpack, in the Elderbachian Chronicles, virtually all of them are based on somebody. Okay. Now I will tell you, when we take a look at the Elfid race, okay, that you find out about, they are literal fabrications. The one that I get a kick out of was in the Return to Paradise. There's a chap by the name of Sawgrass. Okay, I have no idea how he got into the story. None at all. He just showed up when I was writing. I'm looking at it going like, where did he come from? Okay, everybody seems that almost everybody knows him. Everybody looks out for him. But the guy's got absolutely no sense of self-preservation. Okay. And I mean, he does some of these. He's what I call an accidental protagonist. He does try and help people in his own way. But I mean, let's face it. There's one scene where he's walking along. When you first meet him, he's walking along and one of the security guards looks down on him. Now, bear in mind, if you take this hand, there's the floor. There's about how tall Sawgrass is. Okay, roughly. Probably a little taller than that. Because I don't really know how far that is. See, Sawgrass is only 1 foot 10 inches tall. Okay. Now, with that in mind, when the security guard first sees him, he spots him. Oh, who's going? Hi ho, hi ho. We're off to see the Dracos. Those you get to run into. Okay. In the Elderbachian Chronicles, and this is why I say we did a stream a while back on what you know as Draconis Alpha Draconis, also known as the Sarkon. The Sarkon are the prodigitators of the Kamalian, the Strazazian, and the Tormenon species. Okay, they are all literally connected. But the Sarkon, because they expanded too fast, had to shear off the outer planets. Net result, those three species evolved of their own accord, with no support. Because they weren't left high and dry, the Sarkon took a whole pile of stuff out to them to last them as long as it could help. Okay, but they said, we're cutting contact. Unfortunately, we can't do a thing about it. This is the best we can do. Now, some of these people took it quite nicely and went, okay, it happens. Okay, the Tormenon took it as, you're abandoning us, and they took on a very different approach. Okay, but yeah, you've got the Kamalian, the Tormenon. Yeah, Strazazian, Kamalian, and Tormenon. The Kamalian took it as, okay, we'll work with it. Now they took on a very volatile method in a lot of ways. The Strazazians held the ideals very close. The Tormenon went the whole different ballgame of a way. Okay. Don't mind me, I'm just hearing noises. So, when you're looking at the, what I did was take the information that's already documented in the races of the world and brought it in. Philip, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Well, the question, Wu, is not so much could they as why would they? Okay, do understand when you're taking a look at the Dracos, at the Sarkon, if you were looking at the Sarkon themselves, if they were to unite, the Elfid race would have one heck of a battle on their hands because of the size difference and therefore the math side of it. Oh, don't panic on that, Philip. Okay, most people don't actually remember them. I just happen to have a very good memory for past lives and a really sheepy one for this one. Okay, but the thing is, the thing you got to look at is what is you're here now. If your body works, well, top elf and top elfin warrior versus top Sarkon. Sarkon's toast, literally, because the elfin warriors are also major. They are extreme adepts at true magic. Okay, they boil it from the inside out, but the majority of the elfin warriors are not that way inclined. Okay, so one-on-one, yeah, there's no question. In a hand-to-hand combat, the Sarkon would tear him apart. As a matter of fact, I can do one better than that, but you gotta give me a second to go grab my coffee and two fingers. I'll be right back. Hopefully I've got the two fingers. Okay, I was lucky. Mentioned I've been doing my best to get things organized. Now, where are we here? Get that out of the way. Okay. These are literally size representative. Okay. Now, this will give you an idea of why I said, what do we got? Whoa, his Dark Material game, his great TV series. Wait a minute. Okay, now, this here is the size of a standard elephant, also the size of a standard human. Okay, now you see the size of that. Now here's the size of a Sarkon. You can see where there might be a little bit of a problem. Okay, these guys are very combat oriented, but they're very physically combat oriented. Now, if you look at the size of the mouth, okay, well, you're pretty much toast. Hand to hand, and bear in mind, these guys grow their own armor. Okay, so if you're looking at combat, the standard elfin warrior hasn't got much of a prayer. Okay, there's just a bit of a problem there. This is one of the reasons why I like the figures. This is why I'm painting them. This will end up getting an entire this particular, not this particular picture, but this figure is the coloring and the basis for the Sarkon. Okay. But when you take a look at it, this is why I say it's all interconnected. And, and some people will say, oh, this is just your imagination going wild. You get to figure that one out. Okay, I look at it going this way. I got way too much corroborative information that other people have turned around and said, that's real. Okay, this is what they've seen, and I've already documented it ahead of time. Okay, my own father corroborated everything I remember. Okay, now granted, he corroborated it on his deathbed with nobody there. So, no, proof is not something I operate with. Okay, as my brother pointed out, people tell me, write what you know. Well, the Ildebakian Chronicles is what I know, couched in a science fantasy configuration, because that's what I know. Okay, but is it what I remember? Yeah, it really is. Okay, this is why I've got the information I've got. It's a little twisted on occasion compared to what you may know of. But, I've taken to doing this where I'm actually painting, and that's why this is why the Viconer, which is this thing, okay, you guys, to get a clearer look at this, watch the game and watch the show Dungeons and Dragons. That's the Displacer Beast they're talking about. Okay, that's what it is. Now, like I said, I take a look at the names and I don't name them by the same thing. Okay, because let's face it, yes, that's a figure from D&D. But since I don't have a way of making figures myself, much less drawing what I see, I go with a rough rendition. But again, it boils down to going, how do I make this happen? Now, I'm looking at my world as in this room right here. Okay, going, how do I organize it? Now, when you take a look, this is the other thing. It's got absolutely nothing to do with, well, it's got a lot to do with a lot of things. But this little table here, okay, this is why I stand on my bed, so that I can actually get a picture of the figures, and therefore move them into positive perspectives. Okay, that way I can get a picture of what I've already painted and go, there's as close to a picture as we're getting right now. Okay, all in all, take a look at what you're working on. Okay, now I'm walking through it one step at a time with people, and this is why I'm changing things around. I was talking to my son today, and he mentioned a couple of things he'd like to get changed in his room. Okay, and start personalizing it, because my youngest has now hit 19 years of age. Okay, he's become his own adult now. Not only did he get to be 19, but he's got his first job down, which is absolutely fantastic. And this is why I say, whatever you do, put your mind to it, write it down, give it physical form in as much detail as you can get away with. Now, my world is changing in this room first. Okay, and then I'll expand to the rest of it. The thing that you got to realize when you're striving to communicate, when you're striving to create something, give it as much physical form as you can. Now, I haven't quite figured out how to do the dioramas, because I'd love to build Casey's Bar and Grill as an actual diorama. But I'm telling you, even at, well, if it's 1 inch per 6 feet, you'd be looking at 5 inches. Well, let me put it this way. You get to figure it. As a matter of fact, Frank can probably come up with the answer, or any number of people that are in there. could probably come up with the answer real easy. But Casey's Bar and Grill was launched inside of a plant where you could park. You could actually park 6 semis side by side through 3 bays. Okay, and I'm not talking the ones like Derek drives. I'm talking a standard 60-foot box. Okay, so I'm guessing that you're probably looking at 100 feet deep, and I'm not entirely certain, but I would suspect probably 100 feet wide. Okay, again, I'm talking about backing 6 semis into the same building, side by side through 3 bay doors. Now, exactly the dimensions or the height, I just don't know, and I haven't taken the time to work it out. I do know it's a 2-floor building right now. And I'll figure that out as I go along. But eventually, I will hopefully build a diorama of it. Okay, again, this is a question of the more senses you can bring into something, the better off you are. Okay, the more clear it's going to become, which is why I've taken the pinning down. Here's the character. Here's the race I'm dealing with. Okay, and here's what they look like, and then put them into the magazines. This is why in the April edition I put the Moonicore in there. Okay, and you can, though these are not sentient races per se. Okay, these are creatures. Now the races are another issue, and I will be adding those. Okay, they'll be included as well while I'm going along. And yes, that they are coming complete with pictures while I'm doing the work on the Races of the Worlds on the book itself, on the 2nd edition, to get it expanded. Okay, so I'm going through a lot of work. And, this is one of the problems I ran into is I got too many things on the go at the same time. But again, if you've got any ideas, there you go, corkscrew from heck. Again, this is the sort of thing that Jeremiah works with. Okay, that's the corkscrew he built. But you got to remember, take a look at the end of that thing. Okay, yes, it's a corkscrew, but in the hands of a post-apocalyptic person, it's a lot more deadly. Just clearing my office desk off here while I'm standing here. There we go. That way I can keep my counter clear properly cleared. But now hopefully this is making sense, but this is why I say if you're writing is what I do. Okay. This is absolutely a carryover of what I did before I retired. I have been consulting people on personal issues, on family issues, on business issues since I was 10 years old. Okay, professionally since I was 23. Professionally being identified as I was actually getting paid for it. Okay, but I started at 10, which leaves me with 51 years of doing this. So I didn't shut it down. And again, if you look at that Buy Me a Coffee link, that will take you to where you can contact me for one-on-one consulting, personal or business, it doesn't matter. What do we got? See, now that's the other thing. I'm just looking at this. What Woo Rider said before he left. I think he's gone anyway. About subliminal messages. Now, I'm pretty black and white. I don't deal a lot in subliminal messages. Aside from, I can tell you exactly how literally hundreds of people, and you're going to have to take my word for that, have utilized these tools to quit drinking, quit smoking, quit doing drugs. Okay. They work without withdrawals, but you do it in tandem with whatever medical treatment you're getting. Okay. Because they will tell you. And I'll tell you wholeheartedly, absolutely, if the doctor puts you on something, stay on it until you can get your system turned around and the doctor says, no, it's working. Okay. This is where this is the one time where I will tell you, it's do as I say, not as I do. Because I was put on 3 medications. I weaned myself off of all of them. And my eyesight has improved. My pulse has reduced to a functional level. And I just found a phenomenal, real quick cure. Remember probably about a month ago now, I got hit with a real vicious case of vertigo. Okay, which is what drove me off the stream. I got hit with a vicious case of vertigo. I found out today because I got hit with another one. And I called a buddy of mine up that had told me, he goes, look, he says, what you've been running into, just a little bit of salt. And when we're talking a little bit, I took just a dab, probably a quarter of a teaspoon, okay, of salt. And it's like, bang, all of a sudden, I no longer suffered from vertigo. Now, I'm much happier with that than I am with the idea of let's take all kinds of medication or 3 hours to bring everything back into balance. Okay, it was going to get bad. I knew that. So I called him up. I said, is this what you had mentioned the other day? He goes, yeah. Okay, so I did that. And literally in moments, the vertigo was gone. Now what I'm looking at is a real simple little issue. Now that I know that, I can bypass that problem and straighten my system out. I have a sneaking suspicion, and LA, I know you know what you do. Well, you'll tell me Frank knows. I suspect. Okay. So I suspect you've got the same answer anyway. My guess is because I cook with no extra salt, none at all. I'm betting if I start cooking with a little extra salt, that will help bypass that problem altogether. Because, like I said, if I am still taking my hawthorn berry because it works. Okay, but this is why I say, when I say follow what the doctor tells you, I won't even go to a doctor. Okay, because my system runs absolutely screwball. So this is why I say this is the case. What do we got here? A pinch in your coffee or water, 1 to 2 times a day. Okay, that I can do because God knows I drink enough coffee. Now, when you talk about it being in the coffee, that pinch, are you talking a pinch in the pot or a pinch in my cup? Because my 2 primary cups are this size, which are 12 ounce, by the way. The way I figure it, Mother Nature provided all of the stuff we needed to keep our body healthy. Okay, that can be done easy enough. Okay, and that will certainly, if I only, what do we go? 1 to 2 a day, yeah. In other words, don't put a pinch in every cup. That's okay. That just means I put a pinch in the first cup of the day and a pinch in the last cup of the night. Okay, that's the easiest way to do it. Oh, and it goes, although if you want to do it in your maker, use about a half a teaspoon. Oh, okay. I'll figure that one out. I'll probably end up doing it in the maker. and see how that works. But I don't get it that often. It's funny. Stopped all the medication. All of a sudden, I'm feeling more energetic. I'm still sleeping stupid hours. Okay, like I'll sleep for 4 hours, be up for 4 or 5, sleep for another hour and a half, 2 hours. But that's better than only sleeping for 2 hours. This morning was bad. I woke up, quite frankly, and ended up with a really wonderful side effect where after I woke up, my leg cramped up. And I still haven't figured out how to bypass those. But again, and this is something that I've done my best where it comes to the one other thing I'm working on. Can we try one thought at a time? What do you think? I am looking at some of the food that is being described or being built in the Elder Balking Chronicles. I am looking to test them. Oh, well, there's a bonus. LA goes, leg cramps are handled by the salt in the coffee as well. I always like the dual use. That always works out better. I'm working on figuring out. I don't know what meats to use to do it, but let's face it, there is something. My dad used to call cats, as in your little fuzzy household pet. My dad used to refer to them as roof rabbits. Okay, so I took that tail. That became one of the dishes that is available and that you can get. Okay, is Szechuan roof rabbit. Okay, now I don't. Obviously, I'm not going to be working with cat. Okay, what I don't know is what meat I should be working with in order to make a mock-up of it, because I'm not cooking a cat. Storm goes, alternately, you could take a potassium and magnesium supplement before bed. Yeah, I'm doing my best to stay away from the supplements. I will if that's what is necessary. But I'll tell you, the one I'm really having trouble piecing together is the missing material for my teeth. I know they can be regrown. Okay. And I am absolutely positive it can be done. I just don't know the method yet. I don't recall it just yet. The nice little part about it is as I come up with these things, I was thinking hammer, but LA goes, magnesium will help you sleep as well. Well, here's the real kicker to it. What food provides magnesium? Again, if I can get away with natural food, I will. Well, that's not a bad side effect, really. I love the fact that people keep going, oh, well, try this supplement. It was funny. I tried the idea when I went to drop my excess weight. I tried the idea of, oh, let's get a supplement because it'll help you drop the weight easier. Sure, that was great. 3 days on it. 3 days. I had a massive heart attack. I took the medication, went, nope, not using it. I mean, granted, you die, you'll lose weight. But I stayed very solid on it. And then right now, I've spent the last 2 years dropping 60 pounds. Now I'm striving to break the 190. Okay. But I'm bouncing between 190, 189 and a little bit. 189.4, I think was the lowest I got. And 194. I'm floating in that, in that 5 pound range, which is not bad. But I do desire to get below it. Very much like I do desire to see the subscribers on Positive Perceptions here grow. Okay. Should really refresh them, see what we got. But I have come to the understanding the number of subscribers to Positive Perceptions and the number of subscriptions to Positive Perspectives is not the critical factor. Oh, what do we got? LA goes easy enough. Chocolate, broccoli, kale, green leafy vegetables, nuts, and legumes, aka beans. Well, as long as we bypass the chocolate, the rest of it's great. I find kale is a little odd, but everything else is good to go. And since I'm teaching myself to cook, and striving to get more into it, that works out quite nicely. So I really do appreciate that, LA. And I know I put more of that into my system. Less of the pasta, less of the rice. Clearly, I'm going to drop the weight a little better. Seeds, spinach, black beans, peanut butter, brown rice, salmon, and milk. Well, milk I go through anyway. I don't actually buy fresh fish to cook because, frankly, I've never been able to cook it properly. But the rest of that's easy. I actually prefer spinach over lettuce. Neat part about it is I'm looking at a couple of things. Yeah, and I'm a pretty simple individual. I don't change a lot, as far as that goes, LA. So an exhaustive list, I don't require a great variety. There was a time when I had applied to social services decades back for assistance. They refused to help me, and I ended up eating just jam sandwiches for a month. I still like jam sandwiches. But that was all I could afford. And that was because I had it in stock. I never, honestly, in a lot of ways, I never forgave them for it. I certainly didn't forget it. But, one of the things I am looking at doing is striving to put together, and I'm laying odds it'll be something to that effect. As far as, I've got to talk to my son, as far as getting together a solid salad, that because the outfit are primarily vegetarian. Nathaniel Hawthorne's berries. Now, are we referring to? I'm presuming those are blueberries, there, Philip. Because if those are blueberries, I eat those in my porridge already. Which reminds me, I gotta get some more of that. Not the porridge, but the cumin. But yeah, I have decided that not only am I doing that side of it, but and that's another. And guess that fits in as another. Well, hawthorn berry is the same thing. Thank you, LA. Yeah, I already I've got the hawthorn berry juice that I take. Yeah, that's what I was told. I was also told one chap in town here told me literally that I should be taking a quarter can of cranberry sauce whole berry. Right, not the jelly, but the whole berry, which would be helpful. I'll tell you, it helped a lot. So I do that on a regular basis too. Yeah, that's what I got told, Christine, and I can tell you, that when I started taking the blueberries, it helped immensely in a lot of different aspects. Ouch, that hurts. Love it when my aunt does that. Yeah, well, that's what got me onto the idea. That's what got me onto the idea of the hawthorn berry in the first place, is the heart trouble I was having. But I was taking it for 4 years before doctors put me on their medication. Well, when they put me on theirs, I stopped taking the hawthorn berry, took the medication. 2 months, eyesight nearly collapsed completely. Get rid of it. 2 months later, I'm seeing across the freaking room. Yeah, Christine, where it comes to the hawthorn berry, I started with the hawthorn berry with simply a hawthorn berry pill out of the drugstore. Okay, I don't take it right now because I've got a guy that makes it for me, and I've still got dang near a year's supply. So that's where that sits. But yeah, I figure, and again, these recipes, these changes in food that I'm working with, okay, these food supplements and these food diet changes, I actually do put into the story, into the Ildebakian Chronicles as well. Primarily because on top of it being a story, okay, yes, it's written as a gamer for gamers, as in gamers will understand it probably a lot easier. They'll understand some of the references that other people may not. Oh, okay. See, now this is why we have apparently a timekeeper. Okay, now we're going to try what we were going to do earlier. I won't be on for the next 2 days, but on Friday, we start focusing for the week on family, on what it is, how it interacts, that sort of thing. I got to say thank you so very much for sharing your time with me, guys. Really do appreciate it. I will be back on Friday. And again, on Friday, I'll also be on Spaced Out Radio with the ET Connection at 9 p.m. That being said, until we meet again, do take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.